Parents of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing you caught your children doing? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. My 5-year-old nephew went to feed the chickens yesterday. I told him to get a hat. He came back fully naked with gumboots and a straw hat on. Apparently the last time he went to the chicken house they pecked at his junk. And he wants to show them that it's not big enough to eat yet. Kids are weird. If chickens pecked at my junk, I'd put many more layers on it instead of exposing it. It's all about asserting dominance. 5-year-olds will pretty much use any excuse to be naked, though. When my brother-in-law was 3, he was so obsessed with the toilet plunger they had to buy him his own so he'd stop grabbing the used one. It was his best friend. Once my cousin took her preschooler to our version of the dollar store and let her pick something for everyone in the family for a Christmas present. She bought my uncle, her grandfather, a plunger. He spent most of that Christmas with it stuck to his bald head. He's a good sort. I really like the idea of a kid picking out presents for relatives from a dollar store. Gets them as invested in the gift giving part of the holiday as they are in the gift getting. And makes for some funny gifts. I woke up to my 5-year-old spraying Windex on the window beside my bed, cleaning it thoroughly, then nodding at me and moving on to cleaning the windows in the next room. I still don't know what the hell was happening. He was cleaning the windows, obviously. Better than licking them. Well, maybe he didn't want you to see the new color on his window and to make it look more normal he cleaned all of them. We caught my sons, maybe 6 and 3 at the time, both sitting on the toilet together, one behind the other, pooping. They told us it was a double poop. We forbid them from ever doing that again. Is it weird that my brother and I also did that when we were young? Multiple times. Not for fun, but if one of us needed to go really badly and the other was using the toilet. Why did I go into detail? Help. My 2 little sisters, 8 and 5 at the time, now 32 and 29 respectively, would poop together, backs and butts against each other, each on one side of the toilet. I don't think anyone tried to stop them cause they just wanted to do everything together back then. LOL. I'm so glad I opened this thread. LOL. We forbid them from ever doing that again. That just means they most definitely did it again. Definitely. Laughing your asses off while pointing at them and rolling on the floor would have been more discouraging. When my son was about 3 years old, he liked to wash his eyebrows with my facial cleanser. Just the eyebrows. Wet, lather, rinse, repeat. He said it made them nice and soft. As the son mentioned in this comment, I can confirm that my eyebrows were indeed super soft. Whoa. We thought couples on Reddit was interesting, but parent and children? How strange. Caught my 2-year-old son licking the floor. He seemed really into it. My 2-year-old licks our cars. The moose licked my car for the salt from the road. You might want to salt your child. When my daughter was little, old ladies would come over and enthusiastically ask her simple questions. Like, what's your name? And she would always reply in flat monotone, birthday cake. Then they'd ask another question like, oh, well, how old are you? And she'd say birthday cake. They would look over at us with great concern. So annoying. I went through a phase where if the house phone rang I would race to it, answer it and shout, hello, this is Lollipop. Then I started to tell anyone on the street or in a store that my name was Lollipop. My mum got so tired of explaining to strangers that no, my birth name was not actually Lollipop, lol. Is there a reason or just because you could? It was all good till the Lollipop Guild sent her a cease and desist. When I was about 4, there was this after school church activity group I went to. Apparently when the teacher asked my name, she asked, what do your parents call you? And I very proudly answered Stinky Butt. My dad thought this was hilarious, being the originator of the Stinky Butt name, and my mother was mortified. If she'd asked my name, I would have told her, but that isn't what she asked and I was a very little child. Let's see. My daughter was drinking strawberry milk and then spitting it back into the cup so she could drink it again. I had hosed off a tarp and it was drying on the patio. We went outside and she just stooped down and took a drink out of a puddle on the tarp. Just today I was in the garage and she came out, instantly grabbed a toothbrush I used to clean car parts and stuck it in her mouth. I don't even know anymore. She's going to have a killer immune system. Or tetanus. One of those for sure. Packing turds into cardboard tubes with toilet paper and hiding them under the sink. She called them poop bombs. There was like 10 of them under there. Did she have specific plans for them? Like, selected targets? Or just making a stockpile for what if situations? She didn't have any kind of explanation to offer. She was only like 5 years old. I kind of think once she got started, she was more focused on improving her craftsmanship and building up her numbers than asking the big questions like why am I doing this? She was so busy seeing as she could, she never stopped to ask if she should. Ah yes, the Jurassic Park conundrum. You son of a bitch, you did it. I saw my kid, who was 4, in the backyard looking for bugs or worms. He grabbed something and put it in his mouth. I asked him about a few minutes later. He said he ate a worm. I laughed and asked why. He said he wanted to know what it tasted like. So I asked what did it taste like. He said it tasted like mud. The next day I asked him if he really ate a worm. He replied yay in the most defeated and embarrassed way any human could. You'll live, you'll learn eh? I kept finding dead worms in kids' pockets while doing laundry. Then I noticed that while I had him help me in the garden he would pick the worms up, kiss them and put them in his pocket. He told me he does this because he loves them. I convinced them that the worms are happier in the ground. He has started putting them back on the ground after kissing them. I used to try and keep pet worms and my parents would find them in the laundry as well. Well, that and acorns. I collected lots of acorns. It doesn't get any better. My almost 13-year-old seriously came inside the other day with 2 live frogs in his pocket. He sounds fun lol. That's freaking adorable. My youngest daughter was about 18 months old. She had, about a week before, discovered how to climb out of her own crib. Also, about a month before, she had once taken off her own diaper, not a repeat event, but a one-time thing. My Mill was visiting us, and we were all slow to wake up. Around 7:30, the baby monitor alerted me that my daughter was awake, but happy and content in her crib. I let my wife sleep in, and I grabbed a quick 5-minute shower before going to grab her. When I got there, she had put the 2 pieces, climb out of crib, and take off diaper together, and used them to repaint her room. I will never recover from the trauma of the smell. My little brother did nearly the same thing when he was about 4. He was already past the crib, but skipped nap time to repaint as well. My dad told us he came home to my mum crying while cleaning it, and saying she didn't get a college degree to clean poop off the walls. Normal reaction from your mom. Who wouldn't cry after seeing poopy walls knowing it's your duty to clean it up? I worked at a vet. Definitely a couple opening shift meltdowns. One time I went to take the only dog who hadn't had an accident out and she peed when I opened the door. I caught my twins in 1st grade measuring each other's penises with a tape measure they got to measure their heads in 1st grade for bike helmets. I walk in after their baths and one is on his back with his legs the air. Of course my husband said, that's not something you do until high school. Recently had a recap of the sex talk with my 12-year-old. Told him you know penis skewed and most dongs are that big that the average is like 4 something soft and 5.5 when erect. Like an hour later kid is in the bathroom and he's yelling for me to find him a tape measure. I about fell out laughing. Average is like 4 something soft and 5.5 when erect. Look at Ron Jeremy over here. I didn't have a twin, but none of us sibs did that together. Cousins yes, brothers no, that would be weird. What are you doing there cousin? Going bowling. When my son was 3 years old, we noticed the smell of burnt plastic coming from our heater vents. I called one of our friends that works in heating and cooling and he came over. Our furnace was in our crawl space so he went down. About 15 minutes later, he asked me to hand him 3 black garbage bags through one of the vents so I did so. He came up later with 3 bags of plastic toys. I had wondered where all my son's toys were going. I asked my son why he was putting toys down the vents. He said, "Mommy, there are alligators down there and if I don't feed them my toys, they will eat my sister." I would have fed my sister to the vent alligators rather than lose all my toys. You're raising a kind kid. Plot twist. He's an only child. If not, he will be once the alligator notices the toys stopped coming. Or, he cared enough about his sister to sacrifice his toys. That's adorable. That's actually so sweet of him. A little girl I was babysitting was slowly stirring her bowl of chocolate ice cream into mush. I asked her what she was doing, and she replied very seriously, "I'm making poo poo, forgot to put in people's bottoms." Dude, what the frick? That's an interesting thing to say. Do you suppose that at the time she thought that when people eat stuff it collectively goes to the same place, and then poop comes from there? At the time, I was pregnant with my second child. I walked past the bathroom and heard my firstborn son, who was about 1.5 years old, in there making coughing sounds. I go in to look and he was standing by the toilet coughing into it. I had horrible morning sickness and he was mimicking me throwing up. Just the other day I saw my 3-year-old head to the bathroom and I hear splashing. In a light panic I run to the bathroom thinking I'm going to have to figure out how to get a plumber during quarantine. I walked in, and he's just standing in front of the toilet plunging away absolutely correctly with his Hot Wheels on the floor and not in the toilet. Damn kid refuses to use the toilet, but he's more than happy to plunge it of his own accord. Think of the money you'll save on plumbing bills. Same boat. My 20-month-old daughter has been carrying small toys around in her shirt a lot more lately. Coincides with when my bump started to pop. Might be coincidence, might be mimicking. Either way, she needs to stop stretching her onesies out. I'm going to need them for her little sister. I read that as 20-year-old daughter at first and I was like,